You think being smart protects you from being fooled. That's exactly what makes you so easy to fool. There is a psychological phenomenon that scientists have studied for decades, and its conclusion is one of the most unsettling things ever discovered about the human mind. The smarter you are, the better you are at constructing reasons to believe whatever you already want to believe. Your intelligence doesn't protect you from delusion. It builds the cage around it. Right now, somewhere in the world, a brilliant person, a doctor, a professor, an engineer, is defending something that is completely, provably false. And the tragedy isn't that they're stupid. The tragedy is that their intelligence is the reason they can't see it. So the question you need to sit with is this: what are you smart enough to be wrong about? In 1994, a cognitive scientist named Keith Stanovich noticed something that didn't add up. He was studying people who scored in the top percentiles on IQ tests, people who were, by every measurable standard, exceptionally intelligent. But when he looked at how those same people reasoned through real-world problems, financial decisions, health choices, political beliefs, something broke down. Their intelligence and their rationality were not moving together. They were moving apart. He called this gap dysrationalia, a word almost nobody knows, but a condition almost everybody has. Think about the smartest person you know, not the most educated, the most genuinely sharp. Now think about one belief they hold that makes absolutely no sense to you. A political position, a conspiracy theory, a conviction about money or relationships that flies in the face of all available evidence. You've seen this. You know you have. Here's what Stanovich found. That belief isn't a bug in their intelligence. It is, in a very specific and terrifying way, a product of it. To understand why, you need to understand what intelligence actually measures. An IQ test, a standardized exam, a logic puzzle. These measure your ability to process information quickly, recognize patterns, and solve problems with a correct answer. They measure raw mental horsepower, but they measure almost nothing about whether you choose to use that horsepower honestly. Stanovich identified two systems working inside every human brain. System 1 is fast, automatic, and emotional. It's the part of you that flinches before you know why, or dislikes someone before they say a word. System 2 is slow, deliberate, and analytical. It's the part of you that does math, plans ahead, and builds arguments. Here's where it gets dangerous. Most people assume that high intelligence means a powerful System 2 that keeps System 1 in check, that your logical brain rides herd on your emotional brain. But the research shows something far more disturbing. A powerful System 2 doesn't suppress your biases, it serves them. Your analytical mind becomes a lawyer for whatever your gut already decided. In 2012, Yale professor Dan Kahan ran an experiment that should have changed how we think about intelligence forever. He presented thousands of people with a complex statistical problem, the same data set, the same numbers, but half the group was told the numbers were about a skin cream trial, and the other half was told they were about gun control legislation. When the topic was neutral, the skin cream, the smarter participants solved the problem correctly at a higher rate. Intelligence helped, just like you'd expect. But when the topic was politically charged, the gun control data, something collapsed. High intelligent participants who held strong political beliefs were actually more likely to get the answer wrong than less intelligent participants. Not because they couldn't do the math, but because they unconsciously manipulated the math to confirm what they already believed, and they never noticed. They experienced their distortion as reasoning, as careful, logical, intelligent analysis. Kahan called this motivated reasoning, and the motivated part is everything. Your brain is not trying to find the truth. It is trying to protect what you already believe is true. And the smarter you are, the
the more sophisticated your protection mechanisms become. This is the part that should stop you cold, because it means every time you felt most confident in a belief, most able to defend it, most certain that you'd really thought it through, that feeling of confidence is not evidence that you're right. It's evidence that your brain has done a thorough job of building walls around what you want to be right. Here's another layer. In a separate series of studies, researchers found that people with higher cognitive ability were dramatically better at one specific skill, finding flaws in arguments they disagreed with. They were relentless, creative, and devastatingly effective at dismantling opposing views. But when shown arguments that supported their own position, arguments with identical logical flaws, they accepted them almost without question. The skill was real. The application was completely one-sided. You are not evaluating evidence. You are prosecuting people who disagree with you, while acquitting yourself of the same standard. And here's the final piece of the trap, the piece that seals it shut. Psychologist David Dunning, of Dunning-Kruger fame, found that the more intelligent and educated a person is, the more confident they tend to be in their reasoning process, even when that process has gone off the rails. Low-intelligent participants at least sometimes expressed uncertainty. High-intelligent participants defended their conclusions with a certainty that made outside correction almost impossible. You are too smart to be told you're wrong. That's not a compliment. That is the diagnosis. So what does this actually look like when it's happening to a real person in a real life? Think about someone you know who is deeply committed to a financial belief. Maybe they're convinced real estate is always the right investment, or that a particular stock is going to recover, or that their business model is sound despite years of evidence. They have read extensively about it. They can talk about it for hours. They have counter-arguments ready for every concern you raise. That fluency feels like knowledge. It isn't. It's armor. The reading they've done was selective. The sources that confirmed their position got bookmarked. The ones that challenged it got labeled as biased, or missing the bigger picture, or just wrong. And because they're smart, their dismissals sound convincing. To themselves most of all. Now think about political beliefs. Pick any deeply held political position, it doesn't matter which side. The people who hold it most fervently are rarely the least informed. They are, statistically, among the most engaged with information about it. They read, they watch, they debate, and they become more extreme, not less, with every piece of content they consume. Because the consumption was never neutral. The brain was filtering the whole time. Every article that confirmed the belief got processed as evidence. Every article that challenged it got processed as propaganda. The more content consumed, the more entrenched the position. More information produced less accuracy. Think about that the next time you feel like you've really done your research. And then there's medicine. Studies have found that highly educated patients are among the most resistant to correcting medical misconceptions. When a doctor contradicts something they've read and become convinced of, the intelligence that should help them update their belief instead produces a more sophisticated challenge to the doctor's credentials, methodology, or motives. The doctor becomes the problem. The belief stays intact. Here's what makes all of this so difficult to sit with. You cannot feel it happening. That's not a metaphor. Neurologically, motivated reasoning produces the same sensation as genuine reasoning. The feeling of thinking carefully about something and the feeling of rationalizing something you already believe are indistinguishable from the inside. There is no internal alarm, no moment where your brain flags that it has switched from honest analysis to sophisticated self-deception. The experience is seamless. Stanovich spent years trying to find a reliable internal solution, a mental habit, a test, a technique that high-intelligent people could use to catch themselves. What he found was humbling. The most protective factor wasn't a technique, it was a disposition. The people least vulnerable to disrationalia were the ones who had genuinely internalized the possibility that they were wrong, not as a performance of open-mindedness, as an actual lived expectation. They went into every problem assuming their first instinct was compromised, assuming their comfort with a conclusion was a warning sign, not a green light. They treated their own intelligence with suspicion. That's the inversion that changes everything. Your confidence in your reasoning is not proof you're reasoning well. It might be the most important sign that you aren't. The question that will stay with you is not whether you have done this. You have. Every person who has ever been certain of something has done this. The question is this: what is the belief you are currently most able to defend, and have you ever once tried to destroy it as hard as you've tried to protect it? Leave your answer below. I want to know what you found.